This is Journeys of Empowerment, a space where we slow down enough to notice what shifts. Where founders and leaders speak honestly about the turning points that changed how they see themselves, their work, and the impact they want to have. I'm your host, Michiel Soetjiet. Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to acknowledge our sponsor. Imagine this. You have rolled out the new process. The expectations are clear, and still adoption stalls. The behavior does not follow. Often, it's not the strategy that is missing. It's understanding what's actually reinforcing behavior in the day-to-day conversations between managers and the teams. Reinforcer.ai analyzes those everyday leadership conversations and show managers concretely what reinforced the right behavior, that missed the mark, and what to focus on next time. Built on proven behavioral science, it makes behavior change practical and measurable inside the flow of work. If you're curious what your daily feedback is truly reinforcing, you can explore Reinforcer.ai. And now, let us turn toward today's guest. What if the very symptoms you are trying to silence are actually asking you to come home to yourself? In this episode, I sat down with Emilia Villegas, founder of Flow With Emilia, and women's health coach and hormone advocate, and someone who turned a personal health crisis into a deeper awakening of voice and purpose. We explored what happens when a high-performing corporate life collides with a body that refuses to be ignored, back surgery, burnout, hormonal imbalance. A 5-minute appointment that left her feeling dismissed and alone, and the quiet, painful loneliness of navigating health struggles while the world keeps moving. But we also spoke about what shifted when she stopped fighting her body and began listening. The move from self-criticism to self-compassion, from Googling answers in isolation to building body literacy, from achievement to alignment, from frustration to advocacy. She put it simply, our bodies are always on our side. And this stayed with me. When she realized her symptoms were not betrayal, but communication. If you have ever felt dismissed, disconnected, or at war with your own body, this conversation might feel like a gentle hand on your shoulder. Let's take a breath and begin. Emilia, welcome to Journeys of Empowerment. Finally.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. Hey, before we go deep into a new way of working in Journeys of Empowerment, or a way of working, or an introduction, first the question, who do you aspire to become?
I love this question, by the way. But I have it very clear. I think, speaking of North Stars, because we were just talking about it before the podcast, I think I aspire to become a thought leader in the wellness and hormone space, because I truly believe in this movement we are creating to improve women's health. Mm-hmm. And it's very deep to my heart, as we will obviously discuss, how important it is for me that women get the healthcare they deserve, that women stop being dismissed, that they are left in the dark about our bodies, about our periods, our stages in life. So if I'm a thought leader, I can have a bigger impact in the world, because I really want to make a difference in the world. Not only for us, generations like our current generations, but also for generations to come.
A ripple effect.
A ripple effect. Like, I envision a world where women in 20 years or so, I base this thinking, for example, about my niece, who's 3.5 years old. I envision a world where she is like 35, 40 years old, and she has happy hormones in her body.
Well, that's sounds already very mission driven, and and your drivenness times this mission, I'm sure you will get there. So hey, the new thing I would love to introduce in Journeys of Empowerment is that, of course, the audience who have listened to multiple podcasts recognize that the podcast isn't scripted deliberately, because we have 6 principles in the podcast. I've mentioned them a few times, so I'm not going to repeat them for now, but they guide us and me as a host while progressing to the conversation. Yeah. And I thought, let's think about how can we help ourselves and also the audience navigating through an unscripted conversation. Yet not get lost in translation, because it's not very clear where we're heading towards. And it isn't based on the feedback, so much on the feedback of my audience. Maybe a lot of people thought, like, Michiel, where are we heading to? But the conversation and the guests are always very interesting. So thank you for listening to my beautiful audience. But let's introduce at this stage, after who do you aspire to become? Very beautiful, interesting, and inspiring. And of course, I need to fight the urge to ask the question, hey, but Emilia, why do you even care? Why do you care so much? But I'm not asking it for now.
I think we'll dive into that.
Drum roll. We're going to introduce the central theme as the Northern Star of our conversation. And we both have the premiere, because this is the first time I'm going to mention in this stage, in the early stage of our podcast, in the 4th minute, I'm going to mention the Northern Star, which is guiding us, and hopefully also the listener through our conversation. And we both agreed on reclaiming the body's wisdom.
Love that. Yes.
Because it's a theme which is close by heart for you. Why does it resonate for you? Before we dive into it, why does it resonate so much for you?
It's a long answer.
We've got the time.
I think, I don't think it resonates with me because of the journey that I've been for the past 3.5 years. Wow. Yeah. 3.5 years. I think through my own, what I like to call my hormonal healing journey, which obviously we'll dive deeper into it, but hormonal healing journey. Yes. Yeah. I like to call it like that because it's been healing in many ways, not the hormones. And it's been a journey. It still is. And it actually changed my life completely. You know, I mean, I left corporate and people who know me for long, I'm a completely different person than what I was 3.5 years ago. Just because that's where life took me. It's not better or worse. It's just different. And I love the path where it took me. But I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned and that I'm still learning is how incredible our bodies can be when we learned how to listen. I'm not saying it's easy. It can be very challenging, but how amazing our healing capabilities can be. And I'm not talking only about physical health. I'm talking about overall well-being. But when we truly connect with our bodies, we learn how to listen to them, which is always a work in progress. We can discover so much wisdom when we know how to treat our bodies. They will respond to us. And I always say, our body's always on our side. It took me a while to actually believe that, especially when you're struggling with a lot of symptoms or health challenges. My quality of life at some point was declining. But I think when our body's always on our side, it's just all the symptoms, everything we feel, it's the way of our body communicating, talking to us. And we just need to learn how to listen and give it the support we need.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And you've mentioned, at least 2 things, but let's dive first into the first question. What pops up is, what is the biggest difference, Emilia before and Emilia after the realization and the 3.5 years of the hormonal healing journey? Am I correct? Hormonal healing journey.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That's the tagline. I think, there's a few things, but just to go with the theme of what you mentioned, I've learned a lot of self-compassion. Loads. I was someone, and I still obviously am aware of it, because obviously it can pop in. I'm not saying everything is perfect, we're humans, but I was someone who was super demanding with myself, very strict with myself. So, I had to push myself to do this or do that, or if I had like pain or something, you get upset. And you get upset. But then I've learned to just, be kinder to myself, cut myself some grace. Again, going back to our body just needs time, sometimes it's not the best day, and that's okay. We don't need to get upset or frustrated. Sometimes it can be, of course, if it disrupts your plans. Mm-hmm. But I would say self-compassion for me, it's something I'm very grateful for.
It's so easy to say. It's so challenging to embrace, cultivate, and internalize it, right?
Yeah. Exactly, and
what do you think is the biggest challenge here? Why is it so difficult? Why is it so easy to say and so difficult to apply?
It's going to sound like, we've heard this before, but it's true. I think it's because of the world we live in. We live in a world where you have to always feel the same way, perform the same way, and if you're not on your top game, then there's something wrong. And no, there's nothing wrong. I would say, for example, that's another big thing that I've learned on this journey, that if when I started having all my symptoms at first, my reaction at the beginning was, oh, well, what's wrong with me? Well, there's nothing wrong with us. We tend to just go like that and blame ourselves, or put this tagline that you feel you're broken, that there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong. Our body's talking to us. Our body needs extra support. That's it. That's it in brackets, of course. There's big, like there's big things to overcome to get where you want to be. But it's just not like pointing fingers at yourself, And also the other thing that you asked me, which I think people can resonate a lot with, it's understanding our bodies. I didn't know my body. I didn't understand my body. I was learning things about my period at 39 years old. Just when I have like a few years left, whatever, 10, 15 years left, I don't know, give or take, I'm learning how it works and how it truly works, not just my period, but the whole menstrual cycle. I'm like, why did I not know these or learn these when I was 12? So I would say those will be like three main things that,
you became aware of.
I became very aware of, yeah.
And in that whole journey, let's turn it differently. Before we dive into the healing journey, let's go back a little bit more into upbringing, childhood, and you've mentioned, I would have learned that probably when I was 12. Yeah. Walk us a little bit through your upbringing, your youth, and where does that drivenness and that high standards and where does that come from? So help us understand a little bit more, Emilia.
It's a good question. Yeah, I think the high standards come from, and this is all myself, but I am very close with my family. We have a great, I feel very fortunate with my family. Like, it's my sister who's actually turning 40 tomorrow. Ooh. So I'm very excited.
Life starts at 40.
Yeah, exactly. And then my mom and my dad, we're all very close. But I think my dad, for example, he's a very successful businessman. Mm-hmm. And I think from a very early age, I look up at him. He's an entrepreneur. He has his own company in Mexico. And I think that's where I started setting the bar high. I did it to myself. I've always been very open about this. My family knows. They never, compare or did you have to do this, you have to do that. I just, created this. I don't know how, we just, what would be the word? Like,
put the expectations upon yourself. Yes. based on the environment where you grew up with a highly successful father with a company of 100 plus people in it. So it's luckily it isn't forced upon you.
No.
Yet you grew up in the image and in the surroundings where the business was thriving and high standards were there.
Yeah.
And although not growing up with parents who are really high demanding on you, they are raising the bar for themselves, and that on its own is maybe an example. Am I right? Or does it resonate? Yeah,
it definitely does resonate. And I'm not saying obviously, but my dad has had obviously along this journey his company. I'm 42, so his company is 41 years old, and he's had very, very challenging times. But the way I've seen him overcome those challenging times, thrive through them, it's been very. I mean, I feel very fortunate because it's given me a lot of learnings at the same time. And then to pair that as well, my mom has always been an independent woman. She raised us to be independent women, me and my sister. So I think all of that compounded with the world we live in. And it's not blaming. And, as we said, I put these standards on myself without even knowing I was doing it, I wasn't even aware. But in the world you live in where you're like, high performer, very successful, you have to feel the same way, be the same way. And I think that's where we can also start like changing a little bit the narrative. And this is where I love doing what I do, acknowledging our bodies, our menstrual cycle, we'll get into that as well. But then if you acknowledge that we have a different rhythm as also men and women, neither is better than the other. It's just different because, we have different physiologies. But I think it's acknowledging our different rhythms and not trying to live to like unrealistic expectations, In
a predominantly men.
In a man's world.
In a man's world.
Yeah,
so.
It is, yeah. The reality is, it is exactly. It is that.
Yeah, and you mentioned briefly a company in Mexico. Does that implies that you are born and raised in Mexico?
Yes, I was born and raised there, but then I'm 42, like I said, and I left Mexico when I was to live abroad first. It was just to study for 1 year. That was in 2005. So 21 years ago, I left Mexico. In between, I've lived in like 7 different countries.
Wow.
I always had this, and my parents also promoted it. Like, they wanted us to, see the world and explore. And, if you want to have a year abroad and all of that, they were always promoting it at home. We have like the family joke now that they maybe promoted too much. My sister also went to study abroad a couple of times, but she would go for a year and come back. But then I left when I was, in 2005, actually January 2005. Never look back. I mean, of course, I've been back to visit and stuff, but for me, the prospect of exploring the world, always, since I was very young, like I would always think, oh my God, there's so much world, people, cultures to explore. That always intrigued me a lot. I thought, why stay in one place when you can, if you have the possibility, of course, if there's a possibility to like get to see different countries, different people, cultures, all of that. So I was always very fascinated by that.
So living now for, am I correct, in 2005?
Yeah.
So 21 years ago.
Yeah.
So you're 21 years,
half my life.
Half of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
That brings me to I'm now curious, where is home for you?
It's a tricky question, actually when I was younger, I would like struggle with it because I'll be like, I don't know, but I think I am Mexican. Of course, I always feel Mexican, but I think home, right now, it's Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Before Amsterdam, it was London for 8 years, and I actually London has a very special place in my heart, like all the other places where I lived, because they became home. So I think home is where I am at the minute. I think now, like, in Amsterdam, I've been like 7 years in December, and it just became like I'm here, and I just feel. I was just telling this to someone like last week. This like a Dutch person I've met, and I said to her like, I when I listen to Dutch as I'm boarding the plane to come back home, I start feeling at home because I'm like, oh, okay, Dutch, okay, yeah. I'm going back to my
sounds familiar.
My safe space. Yeah, exactly. So
Me being curious, and I always I did the whole sort of initiative nudge to start the podcast is that I love people and I love to connect. So this is a personal question from my side. It's and it is, if you think about a difficult topic in your life, in which language are you thinking?
I think in English and Spanish, both.
Both.
Yeah, I think in both. I also speak French because my husband is from Marseille. So then if I start speaking French for many days, then it starts I start also thinking in French, whilst I'm there. Yeah. Then as soon as I leave France, it goes back to both English and Spanish. I dream in both languages.
No.
And then...
That's confusing, because in and of itself, dreaming can be confusing, and then also in two languages.
Yeah. And I also, because how sometimes people say, it's just the language you will count in, or how you swear. But I think it depends where my brain is at. Yeah. It's one or the other. I don't have a specific one. It is, for example, if I'm talking about hormones and things, I have to think more in Spanish because I'm so used to talk about it in English. Yeah. So then I'm like, you have to translate from English to...
that's
how you say it, But I mean, obviously I'm fluent in both. But then I wanted to add something to your question from before. I think my heart at the end of the day is it has had many homes. But then it's really funny because when I go to Mexico, I feel like a tourist.
Oh, wow.
Because I've been away for so long. There's so much I don't know. Even the latest, viral funny things, or even the latest law changes, just basic things from life, Sometimes I'm very fortunate because I still I'm in contact with, I still have my group of childhood friends. Yeah. But then sometimes they speak about things or joke about things that I'm I don't understand. I'm not used to the city anymore. No. I'm from Mexico City. So I feel like a tourist in my own country. And it's a very interesting concept. I'm fine with it now, but for a little while it was a little bit
And do you believe over time, over the 21 years living abroad, do you believe that a native Mexican who's still living in Mexico City will notice slightly differences in your demeanor, in your way of walking, talking, that although you're from Mexico, also you lived abroad? Do you think that it's recognized? It's in the small things, nuances. It's very difficult to explain.
I love that question. I think so, because I also notice it, when I'm there, I'm like, oh, I forget people do this here. I like it, or, so I think probably people will notice, things.
Slightly,
I can probably think about a couple, but I think people will notice. Strangers, right? If I go, I don't know, to the gym, or, where I just end up talking to a stranger, or Pilates or whatever. Yeah. Oh, yeah, so you're from Mexico. Yeah. And, so I think, people will notice.
Yeah, people will notice. Yeah. The reason why I'm asking is also because I'm originally from Mumbai, India. Yeah. But I grew up here with Dutch white parents because I'm adopted. So when I was 6 months old. And I visited India in Mumbai in 2023 for the first time. Yeah. And
2023?
Yeah. And they and in India, people were looking at me as if I was a sort of out of space. And they're like, okay, there are genetic markers, but you could see them looking at me but there is something different, because my whole demeanor, my whole behavior, I am very, like Kimberly Fugway, thank you very much for that comment which you made last week. If you listen to this podcast, she said, Michiel, you are typical Dutch.
You are typical Dutch. Oh, I think the same.
Yeah. And she said you are typical Dutch.
You're so Dutch. Yeah.
So that's really funny. So I can imagine you growing up there, but also for the half of your life abroad, that there will be slightly noticeable little differences, which made clear that you're now living abroad. So Emilia, let's go a little bit into the stage of so you went to university in London.
No, I went to university half in Mexico, like the first 2 years. I studied hotel management. Of course, I don't do that anymore, but I studied hotel management. So half of it was in Mexico, the other half in Switzerland. So 2 years and 2 years. Yeah. So my initial reason for moving abroad was to study in Switzerland.
Mm. And how was how did you land into corporate roles? What were your corporate roles? Before we transition,
we're getting into the deep end. So I worked in hotels all of my 20s. Yes. I think I mentioned it to you on our first call. You know, I knew better what I wanted to do with my life when I was 20 versus when I was in my 20s versus when I was in my 30s. Mm. In my 20s, I knew exactly I wanted to do hotels. I was in love with hospitality. I worked in hospitality in Greece, in Chicago, in Dubai. Loved it. But then when I was like 29 or so, I went to do a master's in London to study marketing and PR. Because in my head, I was going to move to that to that sector. Mm-hmm. So I went to London. I didn't want to be in hospitality anymore because I wanted, even though I loved it, I just wanted to have a little bit more structure, you know, in my life. Because obviously with hospitality, I was in the operational side of the business. My schedule would change every week, you don't have weekends, etc. So I wanted a little bit more stability. Mm-hmm. Also moving to a city like London, I was like, I don't know if I want to be taking... My last job in hospitality was in Dubai. I don't know if I want to be taking, you know, the tube, the metro at like ridiculous hours and stuff. So my plan was to go into PR and marketing.
Due to safety, feeling safe?
Yeah, I think safety, quality of life, like different things, you know. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up in sales for renewable energy for about a year. Well, first, natural gas, zero sexy, for like 6 months. Then renewable energy. And then I landed in tech. When I landed in tech is 2014, so I was 31.
And what do you mean by tech?
Like in the tech business, I was in a company, the technology, like, you know, tech was like all the rage at the time, you know, it was like starting to grow and be like the cool place where you wanted to work. And I landed there and it was okay. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool to learn, you know. And at first I was happy, I guess. Like, you know, I was more like, this is where life took me and like, just like, let's make the most out of it. This is in London. I work for a Swedish company. I got to know Scandinavian culture, which I loved. But then as the years went by, I just started realizing it was just a job. I wasn't fulfilled. Things started to change as well, especially in the last year when I was there in London. My last year living in London, it became a very stressful year. I had a very difficult relationship with my current boss, which there was just simply no chemistry between us, like no chemistry from the beginning, you know? Nothing happened, it's just zero. And it made things very difficult. It created a lot of stress. And also because I was doing a job that by then I'd been doing this for 4 years, I realized, well, what's the point? Like I wasn't fulfilled. I understand some people love it. It wasn't for me. To the point where that was the first time I started thinking, oh, maybe corporate is not for me. Maybe I should do something else. But then it also coincided with the year when, at the end of that year, I moved to Amsterdam. So I was like, you know what, when I go to Amsterdam, I'm going to take a break. I was like really stressed out of work. Like I really needed the break for health reasons. Also because at the time, I was also dealing with like a back injury. I think we mentioned this here in our call as well, like a lower back injury I had. So because of the stress, the pain started intensifying. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to move to Amsterdam, take a break, look into my health, my back health, and then decide what to do. Because I'm probably going to leave corporate. I don't like it.
Do you believe the back injury was a result of the stress, or was it stress related? Or
I think it worsened with stress for sure, because that year it definitely worsened. I've been living with it before that for 5 years, and it was fine. I mean,
fine as in
like I could have a normal life. No, as in I could have a normal life. I would take an ibuprofen and then it would be gone. The pain would be gone.
For me, that's a little bit ignoring the signals.
Yeah. But there's a difference, right? I haven't learned how you can reclaim the power, right?
Yes.
True.
Yes.
Just take an ibuprofen and I'll be okay. I went to chiropractor, physiotherapy.
It should be okay, and I need to do this, and I need to go forward. And
exactly. How am I not going to be okay? That can be it. Let's just take a painkiller and it's fine, like if you didn't really know me well, you wouldn't know about the injury, because I was like, you just cover it as well. You don't want like everybody to know. And then I moved to Amsterdam 3 months after moving here. Well, there I went to Mexico because I kind of was a little bit like fed up that I wasn't really getting the medical attention I wanted. Like I was like, I need to get an MRI done. They wouldn't do it for me because I was like, you're fine, you're walking. I was like, yeah, but I'm in pain all the time or most of the time. So I ended up like deciding I wanted to go to Mexico and just, get medical attention there with my family, doctors I knew, etc. And to my surprise, when I arrived to Mexico, it was a complete shock. They told me I needed surgery. So obviously, and it was a complete shock. Like doctors were like, how are you like walking, like, having a normal life, in brackets, because 2 of my lower discs were completely gone.
Oh.
So now instead of discs, I have titanium plates. That was the surgery. They changed them for titanium plates, which means then they're not pressing the nerves. So those plates act like discs. And now ever since, I'm very grateful because the surgery was a success. This is April 2019, and I'm great. I exercise, lift weights. I have now I do have a normal life in terms of with my back. It was a huge success, the surgery. But it was the first time in my life when I realized what happens when your health fails and how lonely it can be despite having the love, unconditional love of my loved ones, my family, my friends, my husband. Despite having all that support around you, you can feel very lonely because you're going through the pain yourself. And I wanted answers. I couldn't get them. And I remember telling actually a month before the surgery, I remember telling my husband the first time. It was the first time I said to him, maybe one day I want to, I want to help people with their health, because I felt so lonely and so, how do you say? I miss the word. Where you can helpless because I can't find the answers that I want. So I don't want people to feel like that. I said to him, I don't know, and I remember where we were. I said, I don't know what I want. What I want or how. But maybe I want to help people one day because I don't want people to feel the way I'm feeling. And that's it. I left it at that. That's in 2019.
I planted a seed.
I planted the seed because that's 2019. I started my own business only 2 years ago. So, it was still...
Yeah, but it's a seed and it has to... It needs some time, right? To breathe and to... and when you mentioned loneliness... in what way lonely? Because to help us understand, although surrounded by loved ones, going through the pain alone on yourself, what made you feel lonely? What do we, as audience, what do I have to understand as person? Sitting across of you, what do I need to understand? What do you mean by loneliness?
I think you're the one who, if you're having a bad day, you're the one sitting at home. Life goes on, and you're the one sitting at home, powering through the pain or waiting for the pain to ease. I think that's one thing, Of course, people are a phone call away, but you're at home, or whatever you're at. And I think also mental health. I started like, your thoughts and mental health can, as we,
spiral
a lot of us know,
down,
you spiral
down.
And when you're in your spiral, you can seek advice, but the spiral, it doesn't necessarily stop just because you seek the advice. So I think, it was the mental load, the emotional load as well you're carrying with you, because it also becomes part of your life. And you, even though if you don't speak about it, because at some point you're also tired of talking about it. But I think if you don't speak about it, even though you don't speak about it, it's still always in the back of your head. Of course,
you can't hide for yourself.
Yeah, you can hide from yourself, and if there's a plan or something, let's go here, you would say yes, but then in the back you think, oh, well, I hope I can make it, even if you don't say it out loud. So all these kind of like, I would say, the mental and emotional load,
And
you said it said it very perfectly. You can't hide from yourself.
You can't hide from yourself.
That's the best way to put it.
And although we try to mask
for
the outer world, but also mask for your inner world, like sort of denial but what helped you to navigate through that loneliness? Did you figure it out then or later?
Well, of course, the support of loved ones, like I said, but also I started even a little bit before the surgery. It was the first time I started like intentionally practicing meditation. I was obviously nerve wreck when because they told me about the surgery and they said it needs to be ASAP. So it was scheduled like for like 3 weeks later or something, and I started I've experienced migraines since I was in puberty, when I'm like under a lot of stress. And I had like a couple of really bad episodes. I was at home, at home, my parents' home, the other home.
Yeah.
I was there and I like the episodes were so bad I had to call the doctor in the house because I couldn't, it was really bad. And I thought I can't walk into the OR feeling this way because a lot of the mindset you walk in with, it's gonna influence the recovery and how the surgery goes itself. So I started like researching out of desperation, how to calm the nerves, the anxiety, the fears that I was feeling about the surgery. And I stumbled upon meditation. There was an article, I think from a Harvard study or something on Google, because obviously there's no AI, this is 2019, about like meditation and anxiety. I read about it, loved it. And I thought, well, I'm going to try it. And I downloaded Headspace on my phone. And because I was like so focused on calming my mind, I started meditating even sometimes twice a day, 3 times, like the weeks before the surgery, 2-3 weeks before.
How easy does that come from you? Because your drivenness and meditation, I can see there's a challenge, right?
There was a challenge, but the middle point is a big drive for me. It's if I want to feel better, I'm going to have drive.
Yeah.
And if it makes me feel good, I'm going to stick to it. Because I'm like, this is helping. I have a lot of willpower when things really help me feel better.
Yeah, when you're convinced something is going to help you,
and when I can see
you stick to the plan
it.
and feel.
So I started seeing the differences to the point when I walk into the OR 2-3 weeks later, I was calm. And I was like, how is this even possible? Even I was like, questioning it. How am I so chill? I was really happy. Like everything changed to the point where I remember obviously my parents were really nervous, my husband, my sister, and I'm in the bed, I remember looking, like when they're like
not even on meds, not even on meds
yet. And I remember seeing, the white lights of the whole week because they're like on the bed already on horizontal position, and thinking this is gonna be great. I'm not gonna have any pain when I'm done. But then at the same time thinking, how did this happen? And the only thing I did different was meditation. That's why I swear by it.
Yeah, you mentioned while you were talking about meditation, and you mentioned very fast, but I'm going to pause and reflect and help you and help us to go back to that point, meditation and anxiety. You mentioned anxiety. What for you is anxiety and where were you anxious about?
I was really afraid that they were going to touch my back.
Oh.
You know. And yeah, what if the surgery goes wrong? You know, what if the pain doesn't stop? I don't know. Yeah, that was the fear. And the mind can, you know, go into very dark places when you're feeling like, you know.
The spiral.
Yeah, the spiral. That's it.
And what is do you think is your take on the meditation? Why does it help us to navigate or cope in a different way with that anxiety? What happens?
I mean, I can speak from my experience from having done meditation now for several years. It's for me, like specifically for my case, obviously for every person is different, but I think it helps you stop. I'm naturally a very energetic person. I'm not naturally Zen. Can you tell? so
I never noticed that.
Never noticed. Yeah. So meditation is that time where I'm like, okay, let's stop and let's pause. It doesn't mean you can pause all your thoughts, but it helps you stop. Like literally, you're not moving for however long, and really sit. And then if you're having very intrusive thoughts or something, it's also, I think meditation has taught me, and I've done a lot of sort of like inner healing therapies. I've done a lot of like the work as well, but it's also sitting with the discomfort. And this is something I've been like embracing even more recently in the last few months, sitting with the discomfort, sitting with the pain, but then it also starts helping you to trust that there's a process, that there's a journey. When I was recovering, because I'm like at home, I was at home for like many weeks, you know, where I couldn't really go out. And I started doing this like on Headspace, actually. There were these like courses about pain management, anxiety, acceptance. So then it starts giving you this inwards perspective and views. It starts helping you connect with yourself. I know it sounds very like, yeah, well, we've heard that before, but it's true. It starts helping you connect and go inwards. It doesn't matter
if we heard it, and it doesn't matter if it's a cliche. Yeah. It's a cliche for a reason, right?
Exactly. And it starts... You start like, I feel, discovering a new world is what you were saying, how reclaiming your wisdom, you know, learning that your body, your mind have the capacity to get you over this, you know? So I think it's because you go inwards and you pause.
Pause, reflect.
Yeah, reflect, makes you reflect and makes you confront your deepest fears as well.
This is 2019. Luckily, the surgery went very well. Yeah. Titanium plates, and it planted a seed.
Yeah.
And your company is now 2 years old.
Yes.
So, what is the period in between? How was
I'll
the transition?
summarize it because we're gonna be here all afternoon. But I went back after the surgery. I did work for like 15 months, give or take. And after the surgery and everything, I was like, oh, you know what? Mistake, but I didn't know. I'm ready to go back to corporate. Maybe it's not that bad. I mean, it's not bad if you like it, but it's not for me, you know? So I was like, I'm going to go back and find a job in tech because I think I like it. You're trying to convince yourself, which is what I did. I went back into tech in 2020. A week, I think we talked about it, a week before the lockdown.
Yeah, the lockdown.
And it started okay for the first year, but then, it just went all downhill from there. Not just because I realized I didn't like it. I was like, why am I here in this dead-end job for me? But also, all the stereotypes. I was in a company which, it was, I mean, the last year or so, it was a very patriarchal company, you know. There was like a very patriarchal environment, it was a mess. So the job became just very stressful for no reason. I also didn't like what I was doing, any of it. I like talking to my clients. That's the only thing I like because I like connection. And my clients were super nice. That was literally the only thing. And like, you know, and I had two very good friends that I made there. But that's it, you know. And it started becoming very, it was a very toxic place as well. Everyone was unhappy, just super toxic. And at 39, so this is 2022, I started experiencing what I now know are hormonal imbalances. That's in the summer of at the end of the summer of 2022, that's when I started what I called my hormonal healing journey, because I started experiencing like a bunch of symptoms, which I thought they were unrelated. I didn't know what they were. And it was like migraines, but like every month they would last 2 to 3 days. Headaches almost every day at some point. Anxiety, but like full on like anxiety, like for no reason, and my sleep was okay, but it wasn't great. I didn't feel like myself. So especially I think for women, this unfortunately can be a very relatable thing. And it's very scary. I would look at myself on the mirror and I wouldn't know who I was. I couldn't recognize myself, and I would be doing the same things that I was doing, and I would feel like maybe I would feel terrible, like I would have, go out for dinner, have one drink, and then I'll be in bed for 2 days with a migraine, sometimes even sick because the pain was so bad, So I try to get help from the healthcare system. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. And what's surprising was a gynecologist, it was a woman, and I was dismissed. I am someone who never wanted to have kids. So I was on the hormonal IUD since I was 25. At this point, I'm 39. And it worked fine until it didn't, because obviously the hormonal IUD has synthetic hormones that obviously start disrupting your body. It also stops you from having your periods because, I'm not going to go into the details, but that's obviously how it prevents you from getting pregnant. And I thought, it's fine. I'm not getting my period. It's not fine. We should have a regular period when you're in reproductive years. I went to the doctors and they would all be like, oh, no, you're healthy. It's fine if you don't have a period. Okay, great. So I was going through my life thinking I was okay. Until it wasn't. And when I went to the doctor here, she basically just said to me, well, if you don't want to have kids, I can only give you the pill. Bear in mind, I'm crying in her office because I'm desperate. I don't know what's happening to me. I'm like just feeling awful. And I don't know if I can swear here, so.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
of course.
I was feeling like shit,
Yeah.
And she was just like, well, I can't help you. I can only give you the pill. And I'm like, I didn't know anything at the time, but I was like, I think I need to clean my body from synthetic hormones, whatever they mean, but I don't think they're good for me. And she's like, well, I cannot help you. It's your only solution. And send me on my way. I was in her office for like 5 minutes.
Oh, wow. Feeling like a number. Right?
Feeling like a number. I was like, she zero empathy when I was crying. And when I asked her as well, can you at least like help me with my hormones, understand what's happening? She says to me, oh, I don't know about hormones. You'll have to Google that. Like the gynecologist, the OBGYN. So that was a big turning point for me. I remember I left the doctor's office. I was crying. I called my mom. I was so angry and crying as well because I was in pain. And I thought, you know what? That was actually a turning point because I thought, you know what? Well, I'll have to find answers by myself because I refuse to believe that this is how I'm supposed to feel for the rest of my life or for I don't know how long. Because I would wake up in the morning and I didn't know, again, if I was going to be able to do whatever I had planned. It was disrupting my life at a very big level, my relationships, because I was like so scared all the time, of how I was feeling. So what started as a hobby of like, let me just, listen to podcasts, follow some experts, find some answers.
Curiosity and overdrive.
Yeah, curiosity and overdrive, because I wanted to feel better, speaking of, started becoming a passion because I realized a few things. I can say the three main ones was that I knew so little about my body, and that when you learn about your body, it can become really empowering because there are so many things you can do on your day-to-day to support your body needs. And they don't need to be complicated, expensive, supplements. No. I'm talking about basic foundational things. Sleep, nutrition, hydration. I've always drank water, but it's a big one for a lot of people. So there's so many basic things, I used to be terrified of carbs. I started eating carbs because obviously I grew up in the 90s. So they were the devil back then. Yeah. But I started realizing, carbs actually helped me improve my health. And it started turning into a passion at the same time that I started working with a life coach to try to figure out what to do with my life. because I was 39, I also thought I don't want to start a new decade where I'm like not fulfilled with my job, feeling miserable, complaining about it. I don't want to be that person because I'm not that person. I'm a very energetic, positive person, and I didn't like myself with that job. So both things started happening at the same time. It was a lot because I was trying to figure out what to do with my life, figuring out my health. But then at the same time, I had the opportunity to certify myself as a coach. And I thought, well, I'm down the rabbit hole. I might as well do it now, because I also want to learn about my body and see how I can continue healing myself. The road to healing was still long, but I was determined because I started seeing changes and improvements, as I said, like the drive.
What did help you, before we move on, what did help you to stay sane instead of losing your mind? Because it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think I had a good support network, not just with my loved ones, but also my life coach. She was she was a super important part of my journey. I'm so grateful to her. I mean, we're still friends today. And Lisa was like such an important part of my journey, but also my loved ones. And I think my drive and my determination. Because I was like, I want to find answers. And because I was finding the answers.
You will figure it out.
I was figuring things out. I was finding the answers. I was relentless. And that helped. I do have to say, at some point it became obsessive and it sort of backfired a little bit. That was also a lesson to be learned because then it was too obsessive, everything I had to do and da. But I guess I'm grateful for it because it was part of the process.
And you are who you are. You are very driven, right? So,
and it made me aware of, okay, let's just do this from a more like mindful place, not so like, but I think, then as I think both things, as they were happening, then they started merging together because I was doing the coaching certification that actually helped me cope with the job that I dislike so much. And I started finding the answers, but also my passion. And I also started finding that I wasn't alone. That there were so many women like me, unfortunately, everywhere in the world. And I thought, well, I want to help those women. I want to empower those women because if I can make their journey even a little bit easier and if I can help them feel not so lost as I felt, or if they're feeling lost, if I can help them find the answers they need so they don't feel lost anymore, that'll be amazing. And that started creating my mission and my purpose. Because as I was empowering myself, I thought, why not do it? And there's a gap, a very big gap. We're more than half the population, and yet we don't have the support we need. So I think it started to discovering my mission and my purpose also started me recovering or helping me keep sane. Because I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, the answer is here. Well, I've been looking for it all my 30s, and I found it.
And empower people, right?
Yeah, empower. Journeys of empowerment.
Yeah, no, but I do truly believe that by feeling empowered, you are able to empower many. And what are you doing now? Because we're now moving into how does it transition into your your certified coach, and now what? I was,
as we mentioned, I started my journey to my business, 2 years ago. Yeah. Left corporate, never looked back. No. Like even, like people who know me, including my husband, he jokes like, it was never for you. You're not meant to have bosses. You need to be your own boss. And it's true. I never looked back. And now what am I doing now in terms of my business or?
Yeah.
So now what I
don't even see it as a business. I see it from your side. It's a calling. It's
a calling.
It is a business, of course, but it's so intrinsic motivated and so driven in combination with your drivenness. Yeah. It's a sort of calling and it's a sort of mission you are on. So.
It's not a job for me. No. It's what I do. Like, when I'm like, I have to work on the weekend. It's not like work. It's just, but that's the word you use, right?
And
but
without
it's
being able to be a client of you, because obviously I'm a man, but I can imagine with your also customer-centric drivenness, because you love to connect with people. And the only part in your last job was that you love to work with clients, so client-centric work. Who are the lucky ones in your current practice, and how do you help them?
So I started by setting up a one-to-one coaching practice, which I still do, and I'm very passionate about, just to helping women like on a more personalized level. Also through this journey, I discovered it was not just the hormonal side and the periods, but also I discovered a stage of life that I've never heard of until I was 39, which is perimenopause. And because I'm 42, 43 in like 3-4 months, it's very relevant to me. So I started also specializing in perimenopause, because that's also when a lot of women, when we are struggling, I still, so it can become like it became like also, this is great. I can also help women with this stage in life, and also changing the narrative about this stage of life, about these old views of like, oh, we're old, or this is it, So changing that narrative to like, it's a very empowering era. It's a new chapter in our lives. It's the beginning of another time of our life, which is going to be amazing as well, with its own challenges, because that's life. But I started like focusing my coaching practice as well in both, women with regular cycles, in like that want help with their menstrual cycle, but also perimenopause. And then from there, I started like already doing different things, which is, I developed last year as well, like corporate workshops about hormones and productivity to, again, raise awareness and education about, going back to what we were saying at the beginning, how it's okay if we don't feel and perform the same way every day. In fact, that's the norm. The norm is not to feel 100% every single day of the year. So creating this awareness about how hormones and productivity, with this specific topic, of course, hormones influence our entire life, every day, every second, all the time. But focusing on the hormone and productivity piece. So also, women, ambitious, career-driven women can also keep growing in their careers and not having to leave their careers because of hormonal symptoms or because they're in perimenopause, which is a big, big percentage of women who leave the workforce or who cannot keep up with a role. It's because the perimenopausal symptoms. Obviously, there's also women with PMS. So just kind of bringing this into the corporate world where, also from personal experience, I've lacked that support so much. I wish I would have had it when I started on this journey and I didn't know anything. So taking it to the corporate. And then from there, I realized as well, I love using the power of my voice. And I like talking, you can tell.
I love that.
So I thought, and going back to the thought leader piece that we spoke at the beginning, I realized I like using my voice to also, whether it's through an Instagram live, a podcast, and with public speaking.
When are we going to see you in a TED Talk?
That's a North Star for me. So hopefully in the near future, because it is a North Star. I envision it in the next 2 years.
Mina Taylor, are you listening to this podcast? If you're listening, I have here a rising star for me in front of me, and Mina is speaker coach for TEDx Amsterdam, and she is tomorrow in the podcast. So
great! I might ask you for her information.
But I would love to see you there
skills.
Because you're so driven and it's your vocation. It's really the ikigai. I don't know if you're familiar with the ikigai, but it's really everything. It sounds that everything came together, right?
Everything came together. I mean, it was a very difficult journey at times, of course. I mean, now I'm like obviously speaking about this from like an empowered position, but it doesn't mean it didn't come with a lot of challenges. It had a lot of very dark moments, dark places, but that's also where you learn, where you grow, and where, some of the biggest teachings are from being in those very dark places. But everything came together, and I couldn't be happier with what I do now. And when I see women like, my client, I have a regular period now, it just makes me so happy. Aww. Or, I understood my symptoms, and I did this. I I don't know, that way that they supported themselves, or they understood, okay, well, I understood it was fine not to feel okay. It's things like that when I hear my clients saying, or the women I'm around with, like, oh, it just makes me so happy, because I also believe in the ripple effect. So these women are going to talk to their all female, like, acquaintances, friends, and then them are going to do it. And I truly believe that together we can achieve, we're stronger. We can achieve bigger things as well. So for me, the ripple effect, collaborations, partnerships are also a big thing. That's another big thing I'm doing as well. I love doing collaborations, partnerships as part of my business.
That's where we met, right? So if we met at Women's Health at Work, the community event organized formerly by Mama Moon Health, and now Embrace Health.
Yeah.
And from Kasia.
Who also was in this podcast.
Who also was in the podcast. And you came right away there on my radar. I saw the drivenness, and I was like, I became right away instantly curious. Who are you? And what are you? What mission are you on? And so lucky to have you in the podcast. And now circling back to the starting point of our deep dive in the conversation, reclaiming the body's wisdom. Yeah. It resonates deeply with you. It resonated when we started, before we started recording, it resonated. What in your vision or in your understanding do we mean by reclaiming? Reclaiming implies that it was already there, but what do you mean by reclaiming?
It is exactly that. Our inner power, and that's actually a very relevant, I love the topic, because you, without knowing, speaking of alignment, it's one of my words this year, go within. I have my 3 words of the year, and that's one of them.
I get goosebumps because I have a book downstairs lying with the title, The Home Within.
No way.
Yeah, you can borrow it from me. It's from Nina Aziz Justin, and she was yesterday in the podcast, and she sent her book 3 weeks before, and I read it, and I only cried because it resonated deeply with me personally.
Great.
But The Home Within.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I love that because I love synchronicities. I'm a very spiritual person. So these kind of synchronicities, I'm like very, also driven. Like, I notice them, and I love to, see them around me. But anyways,
the reclaiming,
because I think the answers, and this is a work in progress for me at the minute. I'm very intentional. Another word of the year.
Intentional.
Like
deliberately intentional.
Trust and go within. Those are my 3 words of this year. And very intentional. It's work in progress for me because yes, the answers are always within us.
Amen.
Always.
I truly believe that.
We're just too busy looking outside. There's the world outside is so busy.
Noisy.
Now more than ever, right? So,
Scary. Uncertain.
So now it's just look inwards. And I recently have to, from being in a very dark place back in November, like at the end of last year, I had to that's why I started embracing it more, because I was so busy trying to find answers when I was like in a very, very challenging time. And I started going within. It was uncomfortable. It was awful at times. It's
always uncomfortable.
I felt like, what am I going to look for? How am I going to even get the answers, Because all these questions, and I just close my eyes and get it, I honestly would do that. I'd be like, oh, maybe this helps. Now I'm laughing, but at the time I was like, what if I just close my eyes and get the answer? But, it's just going within. It's so, so powerful. And that's why I'm embracing it so much, and I'm being so intentional about it. Specifically at this point in my life is very relevant because of the end of last year. So, we have the answers. It's just for us to reclaim what we already have within us.
How do you feel? How is it feeling that we are now landing into the last stage of our conversation? How does it make you feel?
At peace, grounded. But also, I wish we could keep talking for ages.
We will continue.
It's so good. I feel it's very like zen, this space here. The energy here is just really nice. very like, it feels
what
like
a journey.
Eh?
What a journey.
Yeah. And I love it.
Yeah, do you believe, so I'm figuring out what is the deeper mission, underlying mission of the podcast. And I only recently stumbled upon while soul searching, and it becomes more and more clear that the sole purpose of Journeys of Empowerment is, of course, having great conversations with founders and leaders, but it's also trying to figure out if we are able to cultivate, codify, and internalize self-empowerment much sooner in life. And in some sort of way, you are on a mission towards self-empowerment by helping your target audience understand via education, literacy, and everything to understand ourselves better, and in order to understand and help the world understand also female challenges and female stages challenges. And so that's in and on itself a mission of self-empowerment too. Do you believe, when it comes to your domain, let's rephrase my thought, how would it have helped you if you knew all the things you knew now in an earlier stage of your life? Let's say in a 20 years earlier stage of your life.
I think in a couple of ways. First, and I love that you use that word because I like to use it. It's just body literacy. It's so important. And I like when I see young women now, like, you know, in their 20s, knowing their body, their menstrual cycles, it fills me with so much joy because they're understanding their bodies. And when you understand your body, your physiology, you also learn. If I feel like one comes with the other, you become more kinder to yourself and self-compassionate because you know why you're feeling, even if you don't, I mean, in general terms, right? It doesn't mean you need to know the nitty-gritty of all the answers, but you know why you're feeling the way you're feeling. Oh, because my hormones are fluctuating, or because I'm going to get my period. It can be just, you know, as basic as that. Oh, I'm getting my period. It's normal that I'm a little bit more tired.
So you have more self-compassion.
More self-compassion by knowing our bodies. I think we could have speaking for myself, I could have solved myself so many like unnecessary stresses or, you know, wondering big question marks of like, what the hell's happening? Like, well...
Silencing the inner critic.
Silencing the inner critic, which can be, again, so...
nasty voice.
So nasty. And I think that could help. It doesn't mean that the inner critic is not going to pop up. Of course it will, because that's a human thing to do. But then there will be times, a lot of them possibly, when it pops up and you're like, okay, well, it's just my inner critic. This is why this is happening. Because my body, maybe I didn't sleep well and I'm going to get my period. So it's two things together, right? And you just become more understanding with yourself. And also as a society, because I know you're also big in including men in this conversation, which I love as well. And I love for men to be involved, which obviously it's a whole different podcast, I think. But as a society, we become like more understanding, right? Those stigmas, those stereotypes about, oh, you know, she's moody because of the hormones. Don't even get me started with those things, you know?
It pisses you off.
It pisses me off. It really does, you know? Because it's like...
I'm getting scared in my own home studio, dear audience. Bear with me.
But you see what I mean? It's like, well, of course I'm moody. My body, if like people really understood what our body goes through every time we get our period, like what the menstrual cycle entails, what's really happening when we're getting our period, it's fascinating. It's incredible. And it's even more amazing that we still keep going on with our lives, give or take. But it's not like, you know, because you have your period, then that's it. I mean, if your life stops, then of course that's a red flag. But it's the marvelous things our uterus is doing, our entire body, when we're getting our period, it's incredible. There will be a lot more respect as well for like what's happening with women's physiology. And I could keep going on and on.
No,
but
no, that brings me.
As a society, it would be so much better.
What is the biggest shift? That's my last question for now.
Yeah.
But we will have proper conversations in future for sure, and we will meet at events where we both are a sort of ally and shoulder to shoulder, and we are. I
think men and women, we should be allies, you know.
We are.
Alienating men.
Well, we are part of humanity, right? So we share one thing we share, and it is humanity.
A planet.
And the planet,
and I think we should be allies, I agree.
So the last for now is, if you have a magic wand, and you may strike once, what would be the shift you would love to see after that strike? And you have only one chance.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that it really, like in every aspect of life and the world, men and women were really equal. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter, that it was really equal for everybody.
Emilia, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for you being you.
Thank you.
And wow, thank you for this conversation.
No, thank you, Michael, for the invite. I just loved it. As I said, I could keep going on for ages. And it's been such a pleasure to meet you as well.
Thank you. Thank you for listening and for being present with this conversation. If something in this episode stayed with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need it right now. And if you choose to subscribe or leave a short review, you help these conversations reach others who are still reaching for clarity, direction, and alignment. If you're a founder sensing that your work no longer reflects who you are becoming, there's a room to pause. A grounded space to look at what energizes you, what drains you, and what may be ready to evolve. You can explore that at journeysofempowerment.com and see if it feels aligned. That's how the circle widens, quietly, one listener at a time. Keep going, keep becoming you.